Do you ever worry about your personality type? Have you ever had a test? So what happens when I do a disc profiling test and we reveal it live on air? Today I am joined with the lovely Elaine Godley. She's been doing disc profiles for donkey's years. And because she's a real health guru and an expert and knows all about that, she's pairing them both together. So she can tell from a disc profile where you are, what you're doing. And so there's some interesting discussions that we have about my personal disc profile. Come and listen to hear what Elaine has to say about my profile, but also we go into LinkedIn and find out why she is struggling to see her company page. So without any further hesitation, let's dive in to this conversation. Here we are live and I've got Elaine back. Hello Elaine, how are you?
Hello, Ashley. I'm fabulous as always. Thank you.
No, really, really good to see you. So for those of you who don't know Elaine was on my show a few weeks back on the show that I do for accountants and bookkeepers. So that's my Wednesday show. This is my Tuesday show. This is my brand new show, Live and Linking. So we're going to explore a little bit about LinkedIn. But the reason you've come back is you do disc profiling. So before we go into that, for those people that don't know who you are, that didn't see the last show, give us a little overview of who Elaine Godley is.
Okay, well, Elaine Godley is about to become an old lady. I was described as an old lady the other day, and I'm 3 years off of 70, which is remarkable. It's just really ridiculous. So that brings with it wisdom. It brings with it grey hair. It brings with it wisdom. 40 plus years of, way more than 40 years of, can't even speak straight, business experience. I've been managing partner of a number of different law firms. I ran a big consulting division for Ernst & Young, Grant Thornton, etc., etc. So I've got good street cred experience with law firms and accountancy practices in particular, more accountancy practices. And I've run several businesses for myself over the years. And I'm a health mentor these days. So I link disc behavioural profiling and health, which is the unusual bit. So I call it discplus.health. That's my website. And we're going to be going through some of that today, aren't we?
We certainly are. So I've done a few disc profiles. I went for a job, donkey's years ago, Elaine, and they disc profiled me. And basically I was going for a job as I think it was a business consultant or something. I can't remember. And basically they turned around and said, "You're perfect for this job. Look how your disc profile comes out." I didn't take the job. It just seemed too salesy for me. But you've taken this another step further forward, haven't you? And you can see health stuff. You're not clairvoyant or anything like that, are you?
Well, it's remarkably accurate. I have got training in health and well-being. I'm a trained nutritionist these days and a biohacker, and that comes from many years of fixing my own health. I was born with a kidney disease that I was told was incurable, and I've had stage 4 cancer and various other things. So I help people to reverse illness, but I'm particularly interested in helping accountants because typically, although it's changing, fortunately, but typically they're run by accountant men who have got their heads in the books and the business and not looking at their health. And with all the stuff we've had in the last few years, it's more important now than ever to look after your own health and well-being. So I looked at their health. I looked at my own patterns of behaviour. I looked at other people's. I've been mentoring people for many years, about 15 years, I think now in health. And I've seen patterns. So using the disc behavioural profiling that I've been working with now over 25 years, I can see patterns of behaviour and health challenges. So I've put the two together. I've got my own system, which is based on DISC, but I call it DISC Plus because it looks at health and well-being. And most DISC practitioners don't even know what I'm talking about. So if there are any DISC practitioners listening in, let's see what you make of it.
Awesome. Okay, so I filled out my DISC profile for you, didn't I?
You did, and we've got it to share.
Proper guinea pig. So are we gonna put that up on the screen then?
If you would please, that would be good. And I have to stress that anybody listening to this, I'm not being cruel to Ashley at all. It's we did have a quick run through on his profile because it's like many which give stories. So every behaviour pattern will come with a story, and all of these behaviour profiling tools, whatever you use, they are the introduction they're not the be all and end all, although in my view, they're about 80% of the picture. So understanding somebody's behavior profile pattern is really important. What their behavior pattern is in their home life and from the age of about 7, everybody's behavior pattern has been pretty consistent from there on. Yes, we mold and we modify and we can train in things and so on, but our innate behavior stays the same from the age of about 7. And when we see somebody's behavior pattern in the outside world compared to how they're presenting at work, how they're showing up in public, when we see the differences, I can tell health challenges. And I can tell if your people or yourself are at burnout, if it exceeded burnout. There's always a story. And then when I go behind the story, when I start asking questions, sort of, coaching type of mentoring conversation, everything then comes out. And that's what happened with you, Ashley, wasn't it?
It certainly was. It certainly was. Right. If you can move the screen that's got, I can see your screen in the view, and you've got us over the top of your PDF. So if you can move that, then I can.
Okay.
And then I can, that's it. And then that's it. That's perfect. Now what I can do is I can bring that in. So that's my disc profile.
Okay.
I'll put you in the bottom corner. And so this is a series of questions that I answered online. And for those of you that haven't done disc before, it gives me 4 options. And I have to pick the one that I'm most like and the one that I'm least like. And sometimes I'm like all of them, or I'm unlike all of them. So it's quite difficult. You have to do it gut instinct as well, don't you?
Yes, you do. It's important that you do it spontaneously, because if not, if you're overthinking, that's not the true you. Always, your intuition is really important. And if I can't see you, Ashley, so I'm just wondering.
I'm definitely here. Don't worry.
I know you're here. I can hear you, but I've got so many screens here. It's all gone wonky again. Right,
yeah.
I'm just gonna. Is it wonky on your screen?
Yes, I can see it. It's like staring down one of those infinite mirrors.
Yeah, the tunnels. Right. Okay. So I'm going to just pull up the screen. So I can't see you. But there we are. I can hear you. It's fine.
Do you want me to describe my face as you go through it?
Okay. So what happens? We using the DISC mnemonic, DISC. We've got the numbers there, the scores. We've got the behavior pattern. And you can see there very clearly that Ashley's internal behavior, so that's his natural style of behavior from the age of about 7 upwards, how he is at home, is the I and the S are the highest characteristics. Now, if you were to Google DISC, you'll come up with different words. I use these words because I find them gentler, and I've been using these over 20 years. When I found I was giving feedback to people who were dominant, so the DISC D word when you search is dominance, and I'd just have people saying, I'm not dominant, how dare you? And I thought, no, I'm not having this. So I trained about 16 people at the time. You'll be going into schools supporting head teachers and classroom teachers, helping to understand the children. So the I and the S, so the I 74%, the S is 62%. I and S is all about people, so it's about being with people, helping people, inspiring people, making people laugh, entertaining people, which is pretty much what you do, Ashley, isn't it? It's not an ordinary podcast ever.
So that's knowing me and then seeing my results. You weren't surprised by
not at all. No.
But right, okay. And so you're saying that I was like this before I was 7. So when I grew up
to the age of 7, up to the age of 7 or 8, yeah.
So as I grew up, and I've talked about it in a previous podcast, my parents divorced when I was 10, or they separated when I was 10 and got divorced soon after that. I don't know anything like that because I was only 10. So you're saying that none of that would have had an effect on my makeup as to where I am today, then?
No, because if it happened
it was
at
after
10,
the 7.
Yeah, that's true. However, the conditioning that we have, which is why primary school was the last place I would send any children if I had any today, because the conditioning goes into a child's mind. A child's mind is an open, empty vessel up until the age of about 7 or 8. All the psychologists, they all disagree on lots of things, but they agree round about 7, 8 years old.
Okay.
So it's the conditioning from school, it's the parents, it's the environment, it's the culture. It's a whole bundle of things.
Hang on a second. Hang on. it's also the grandparents as well, isn't it? And
Exactly.
I've got a
Yes.
3.5-year-old grandson. So spending too much time with me, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, given you've got such a beautiful profile, I think it's a good thing. But
Okay.
the world can't exist on your profile solely, because we'd be having so much fun and
We never
not
get anything done,
concentrating on
would we?
anything. We wouldn't get anything done. No, we wouldn't. No, we'd have fun though.
Excellent.
So what's happening in the external profile at the time that you completed this? So bearing in mind, the external profile can move and does move for most people. So you are who you are, and ideally we want to see all of the graphs looking the same. Now we've got this external profile pattern, which is pretty much your internal one upside down. So I was happy to.
Okay,
have
so you're saying basically, if I draw a mirror across the middle of that page, it is like it is a total reflection, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that good or bad?
Well, it's neither good nor bad, and this is the thing. You can't have a bad profile. You have what you have, and it's about understanding what you have and working with what you have, which is why I always bang on about the internal profile. That's the most important one to understand.
Okay.
When we have differences in the external, so how you're presenting in the outside world, that then leads to questions. So the question is, why are you changing your behavior? Why were you changing your behavior at that time? So looking at the pattern, what we were seeing then, your people aspect was going underneath. So we have a center line, the 50 marker. The further away from the 50 marker in either direction, the stronger the characteristic is. So instead of being a people person, so above the line, the typical characteristics that we see day to day, your people stuff was going under the counter, so to speak, and your conscientiousness, your attention to process was increasing, and your directness was increasing. So directness is about taking the challenge, task driven. So the D and the C are task driven aspects, whereas the I and the S are people orientated. So you were very clearly concentrating on a task, a series of tasks, going through a process, and man on a mission at the detriment of your social side. So what was happening at that time, Ashley?
That is absolutely incredible. And we had a discussion about this, and you sort of like, oh, I've lost you. Come back, wherever. And we had a discussion about this. And so right at the beginning of the year, which is when I filled it out, I take on all these things, and I just, I'll do this as well. And so at the beginning of the year, I was launching a brand new brand program. So I'm doing personal branding now, and I'm working with a couple of guys on that. So I'm actually building the program as we speak. So I was getting that set up. And I also delivered a brand new course, totally free of charge, to help people with using video. And so I was building that as well. Plus, we just got over Christmas and everything else. So yeah, I was running around like one of those flies that have got a blue bottom, and also doing a podcast to launch this new show. So yeah, there was an awful lot going on. So yeah, that totally explains why you've got the high on the direct stuff, because I was just so focused on getting all of that stuff done. So that's incredible. And so you're saying if I did it today, it'd be a totally different reading. And if I did it next week, it'd be a totally different reading.
Absolutely. But your internal profile would stay the same. The only time an internal profile changes is if something catastrophic happens in your life. So, for example, when I had stage 4 cancer diagnosis and given less than a year to live in 2015, my profile was a shadow of me. It was still me. It was still the same overall shape of my natural profile, but it was a smaller version. It was a compressed version. So we don't fundamentally change our shape, but we do one of two things. We either go into ourselves, so into our shell, or if we're under stress, we often get even more like our internal profile. So, for example, under stress, your eye could go up over the, right off the scale, so to speak. So you could become a complete and utter, clown type person. You could be worrying, because the S is about worry. The higher the S in somebody's natural profile, the more the worry. And with accountants, this is what we find. A lot of accountants' profile is high S, high C, low D, low I, which is kind of, imagine a line across the page. The D is low, the C is the high, and it's a line that join the dots. So I can tell from an internal pattern what career type of what career an individual should go in, and I can tell by the external profile changes what the shift pattern is, how somebody is stressed, what they're stressed with, and I have got the experience and knowledge now on the health, so I can help them to reverse. So rather than waiting till somebody goes, has a hissy fit and has a burnout at work, I can help to prevent that. It's very simple for me to do that. And I do it by looking at the difference in the patterns and then going into the story in a sort of a coaching, mentoring conversation.
No, that is absolutely fascinating. So when you're doing this for other people, you can turn around and say, well, actually, you need to do this, you need to do that, because I can see this happening in the future and stuff like that.
Exactly. And it's a conversation, but I do it in conjunction. Normally, when I get called into organizations, it's because of a recruitment situation. Somebody wants to bring a new person in. My view is, let's look at the behaviors you want to see in the role, because typically what people do is to recruit in their own image. And when you do that, it might be good for, maybe a small department, but it's not necessarily good for the practice. So let's look at the roles that you want to bring in. Let's look at the behaviors. So I do a sense check on whether that's correct or not. Often people will say, we want somebody who has attention to detail and is good with people, attention to detail. So you're asking for an extrovert and an introvert in the same person, which very rarely happens. So having said that, part of your profile, you are an introvert and an extrovert, because one minute you'll be wanting, to be on stage playing your guitar. The next minute you might want to be on your own reading a book. And that's fine. When we know what our behaviors are, we don't put ourselves in a situation that's working against. And that's what often happens. People are in work environments that don't suit who they are. They really don't. So they're trying to be a square peg in a round hole. That's where the health issues come, because your body has, every cell in your body will pick up the negativity and behave in whatever way that your body. So people who are high D, they will very often be throwing themselves around a gym, going on marathons, road running, all kinds of things, because they're challenged. They need to have a challenge. And for many men in particular, that running, sporting is an obvious challenge for them to take up. But it's not necessarily right for everybody, But looking at your summary profile, you can see there that there's a complete mix here. So the system will take the internal and the external and say, typical day-to-day pattern. You didn't know which way was up there. You're trying to be all things to all people at that particular time, which isn't healthy. And then when we look further down, I can't send the thing down. There we go. So you can see there the shift pattern. We're changing in all different directions there. In your case, the tension is up at 39%. I won't go into all the technicalities of it or where those numbers come from, but the system picks up. So what it then does, it says, okay, how far can you comfortably adapt? And it gives us an adaptability of 38%. Your tension level, because of the changes, is 39. So you've fact by 1%, you've exceeded. So you were at burnout. Now, on a short-term basis, it's not a problem. On a long-term basis, it's recipe for disaster. So I can tell this information, straight away, very easily. But it's the interpretation and where you go with it. So I keep on flinging my arms around. I've got flies here. The farm have spread all the manure, and the flies have come in the house.
Lovely. That's a nice thought.
Charming, isn't it?
Yeah.
Charming. So there we are. Shall I stop sharing this now?
No, that's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, thank you very much. So anyone can have this done, and it's the same questions, isn't it? It's exactly the same questions. You didn't use different questions for me that you'll use for Sally and George and whoever else.
Not at all. No, absolutely not. It's and I can use it from the age of about 12 upwards. So most managing partners fit into that category. We normally start with the managing partner, but then we go to the senior management team, and then we do silos with the teams. And then when we're looking at things like succession planning, we look at recruitment. We look at maybe doing some team dynamic work. Maybe there's a bit of friction here or a bit of friction there. We can look at the different personalities. I can have the conversation as a non-emotional, extra pair of eyes. And with all the managing stuff that I've done in the past, quite often you can't see the wood for the trees when you're in it. But when you have somebody like me who's been there, done it, can make some constructive suggestions, it's helpful.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you. If anyone's watching, and I can see there's a few people watching, but I don't know who you are. And if you've got any questions about this, please drop them in the chat or the comments, and we'll happily answer your questions. Now, looking at my profile, am I doing the right job, Elaine?
I would say yes, because high eyes are really good at training. Yeah, I wouldn't hire you as an accountant, not in a million years.
That's okay. That's okay. My books are in perfect order for those of you who are watching, because I have an accountant helping me. But no, you're right. You're right. But we do end up in the wrong job, don't we? And I guess you see that when you're doing those profiles.
Yes, yeah, and that's why I started working in schools as an external consultant in the 90s, because I could see, had I been given guidance on my behaviour pattern. The other thing as well I can look at is it's every day I see comments about ADHD and oh, if only you'd focus and this, that, and the other. And I was told that continually at school. Oh, if only you got concentrated and focus, you'd be really good. And I couldn't wait to get the hell out of school. If I'd had the guidance now that I can give to young people, and I do help mentor some schools in Nottingham through a charity that I've trained. They use my system, and it's so rewarding when I can see that I'm making a difference, even though I'm based here in the Algarve in Portugal. For people who don't know. Working remotely is wonderful. I do go over to the UK, and I have worked with some big practices over the years, but I do like my life here in the Algarve.
Hey, flies and all,
they're everywhere. Honestly, I've just got a new dog, and I have to have the door open for the dog to go in and out, and of course the blinking flies are coming in. I don't know. Small price to pay.
It's really cold and wintry here, so the flies aren't even around. So that's fine. So the other aspect of what you do is health mentoring as well, isn't it? Because you've just told us you managed to not have a kidney disease anymore. How on earth do you do that? Surely you just take drugs and keep it at bay if you've got a kidney disease.
Well, you up with kidney failure and on dialysis and 6 foot under. If in my experiences, that's what can happen. So I was a competitive swimmer in my teens, and I was continually getting waterwork infections. I'd either projectile vomit, or I would have I can't think what the word is, but waterwork infection. And then I was told it was this condition, that condition. I was told at the age of 16, I'd never even seen a man with no clothes on. I was told at 16 I was a whore by this wicked gynecologist woman who was horrible, absolutely horrible. Anyway, I think I was about 22, I think, and I got diagnosed with this condition, which is very rare, called medullary sponge kidneys, where the pump kind of thing, the clearance valves weren't working properly, so hence the muck would build up, and I would either end it would come out, and then I was put on antibiotics, and I stayed for over 20 years on a rotating cycle of antibiotics. And in my 40s, I was introduced to a chiropractor whose girlfriend was a nutritionist, and I still use the same hair analysis today with my clients that she used with me over 20 years ago. Which is just amazing. So I can tell by looking at a variety of different blood tests, hair analysis, fingerprint blood tests that I do in other areas. So I can tell with the behaviour of the person, if it's their behaviour that's got them into trouble and brought upon their illness, what's happening in their blood, the minerals, the heavy metals. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I look at, and I can tell what's going on without even meeting. So it's like having a doctor in your pocket. And I've got a health hub that I have. I do health networking Mondays, Fridays, with my own little tribe. With everybody's welcome to join.
Oh, fantastic. So that is maybe where Ruth can come and join. So Ruth has just asked a question. You can work with individuals just on a personal life level. So you've talked about going into businesses and helping accountants and what have you. Could you just work with somebody on a life level?
Absolutely, I have done for many years, Ruth. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So from 12-year-olds right up to senior business execs, and that's why I chose the DISC model to work with all those years ago, because it's very simple, very straightforward, and it's easy understandable. But I've now extended, and I've got my own version that's been developed by Noel Global Systems, who support me on my IT development work. They're brilliant, very helpful.
Right. Now, if you're listening on the podcast, all of this information will be in the show notes, but live. So for people like Ruth who's watching live, how can we get hold of you, please?
So I've got two websites. One is elainegodley.com, and that's mostly for accountants and lawyers, a bit about my background in that field. And the health one is discplus.health. So that gives you more information about the health testing and so on.
Fantastic. And you're on LinkedIn as well, aren't you? So
I'm all over LinkedIn. Yes, I'm known as the disc profiler is my kind of handle on LinkedIn.
So talking about LinkedIn, because I want to help more people with LinkedIn. Have you got a question for me today on things to do on LinkedIn? Anything you're struggling on? Anything you want to know?
I've just set up a new page. I don't have a disc page. I have my own personal profile, which I've got reasonable following. But I've just set up a health page, and I'm struggling to get that. I get traction with it. So I've got a newsletter that I've got on my main individual profile. I've got 1,200 subscribers to my newsletter on that. But of course, last week I didn't realise what I was doing. I did a newsletter, and I put it on my Perfect Health, and I think I've got 3 subscribers. So I've gone from 1,200. So how do I mix the two? I don't know how to do that.
So I'm just going to have a look at your profile. So I wonder if I can actually share this. You're happy for me to share your profile on screen?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, yes. Absolutely. So let's do that then. And it's that one there. So this is your personal page. But you say you've got a company page as well. So if we scroll down,
I've got a Perfect Health Hub new page.
Where's that? Have you actually created? If you said that you're a actual team member of that Perfect Health page?
No, there we go. That's the answer to that's the first thing.
That's the first thing. So what's it called? Perfect
Health Hub.
It'd help if I could spell, wouldn't it? So if you're listening on the podcast, you're not going to see any of this. But what I'm doing is I'm actually going into the search in LinkedIn and putting in Perfect Health Hub. And that's bringing up, we want companies. And there it is right at the top, Perfect Health Hub. That's you, isn't it? I recognize the logo.
Yeah, that's it, the Perfect Health Hub, yeah.
Right, okay. So if I go to employees, it doesn't have any employees. So the first thing you need to do is in your experience section of your LinkedIn. So I'm just going to go into my profile to show you exactly how to do that.
Oh, this is cool.
You come on down to experience, and then you click the plus button. And when you click that plus button, you can add a brand new position. And what I can actually do, I can actually say that I work for the Perfect Health Hub. There it is. So I can actually create, and I can turn around there and I can say I'm the managing director of the Perfect Health Hub.
Yeah.
So that's what you need to do. And then what that would do, and you can notify, what I would do is I would turn that button on. Right at the very top, it says notify your network. And if you turn that button on, what will actually happen as soon as you add it, everybody in your network will then get a notification that you've got a new job.
Okay. Right?
And the new job is at Perfect Health Hub. So everybody will then see the Perfect Health Hub.
Right.
Brilliant. How's that?
That's excellent. That's a perfect answer. And also from that, I guess I could do a video, an introduction video saying all about it, because people, it's not like I've got a new job. I've been doing it for ages, but yeah, good.
Right. But here's something really interesting. And this is what I talk to people about all the time on LinkedIn, is people buy from people who they know, like, and trust. Okay. So I'm going to test you now. Do you know the name of my business? And I don't mind what your answer is, but do you know the name of my business?
Actually, no, I don't.
Brilliant.
LinkedIn, live and linking. No.
Well, that's the name of the podcast, but you don't know you don't know the name of my business because you deal with Ashley Leeds, because you know Ashley Leeds, you like Ashley Leeds, you trust Ashley Leeds, yeah? And it's exactly the same with Elaine Godley. And if we look at your profile, you've got 6,641 followers. Yeah. So if you do anything on LinkedIn as Elaine, more people are going to see it than if you do as the Perfect Health Hub.
Exactly, which is why I've never put the hub on there. But somebody said to me recently, I should have the hub on there because I've got a membership thing. So maybe I should not bother with it.
So no, you've got it there now. So what I would do is I'd create yourself as an employee of that business, and then what would happen? It would come up here if you wanted to come up here, and then you'd have the logo in there as well, and look really neat. So if I just show you my profile again, so the name of my business is Full Cup Coaching. Yeah. Right. So, but I've got a little logo there, and it looks a little bit more professional.
Okay. Good idea. Right. I will do that forthwith. Thank you.
No, that's absolutely fine. And that's the whole idea of me setting up this show is when my guests have a question, I can actually help them. That's it. That's half an hour. Elaine, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and giving me a kick up the butt on my profile. If anyone wants to get in touch with Elaine, we know how to get hold of her now. Thank you to Ruth for your questions. And I will be back next week. I got a super duper special show next week because I have got Mr. LinkedIn himself, Mark Williams. He does an amazing podcast called LinkedIn Formed. I was a guest on his podcast a few weeks ago, so I'm repaying the favor or vice versa. And so I cannot wait to have a chat with him. And we are just gonna talk all about LinkedIn. So if you want to know anything about LinkedIn, we've got Mr. LinkedIn himself coming on. So looking forward to that. But Elaine, thank you very much indeed. It's lovely to see you. Good luck with your little doggy. Is your little doggy got a name?
Waggy.
Waggy.
Oh, yeah. Get this, Ashley. It's got a tail. He came to me with the name of Waggy because he's always wagging his tail.
Fantastic.
So that means, I guess that means I'm Wagamummy.
You're a
Waggy mummy.
You're a Wagamama. That is awesome. Elaine, what a lovely way to end the show. Thank you so much, and see you again next week. Cheerio now. Bye-bye. There we go. That's the end of another show. Thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe, start downloading, and tell everybody else that you like this podcast. If you want to reach out, if you've got any questions, I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm the 15-minute guy. You can find me dead easy. It's Ashley Leeds. And you can find me on my website at www.just.15mins.day. And on there, you'll find loads of free resources and ways to contact me and book a meeting with me. So thank you very much for listening. See you next time. Bye-bye. You get out what you put in. Never gonna lose, never gonna win. Long as you're happy, you're always gonna grin. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in. You get out what you put in.